Casual workers to get paid holidays. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Still working through my morning stein of coffee, and I thought we'd have a look at this article from The Age. This is a story that's doing the rounds at the moment, particularly with regards to casual workers potentially getting annual leave and sick leave. Now, if you're a casual worker in Australia, you should be getting paid a 25% addition to your normal pay. There's a 25% extra payment you receive to compensate you for not having all of the perks, the annual leave, the sick leave. Now, here's the thing. The annual leave and sick leave, guys, is not free. Don't ever think of it as being free. It's part of your pay that is held away from you by your boss or your employer, because you can't be trusted to save enough for your holiday time, or you can't be trusted to save enough for your sick leave. Because really, you should be getting paid more. Even though we're in a market economy, there'll be competition. If you didn't have annual leave or sick leave, there'd be more ability to pay people more. So you don't think of that as free. That's a big problem. But you also have to understand that with our current workplace legislation, there's a fairness test. So that 25% loading that the casuals get, it still needs to meet the fairness test. If, they're losing out on these things here, the sick leave, the annual leave, it has to be equivalent to the loading that they get. If the losses they're receiving are more valuable than the loading, there's the issue, there's the concern. So, casuals there's some benefits to being a casual employee, certainly. If you never take your sick leave, wouldn't you rather have the money? Wouldn't you, if you don't get sick? I know there are a lot of people that don't, but then there are a lot of people that are dependent on it. So it's a very complex issue, and let's have a look at this case, because the way it's being portrayed in the media, I think, we'll just jump over here to the ABC. There you go. They've got a coffee barista there. It's very different to the actual case that's gone to the courts. So let's have a look at this. A landmark court ruling has confirmed some casual workers are actually entitled to paid leave, bolstering a set of class action lawsuits seeking hundreds of millions of dollars from employers. It has also reignited claims from employer groups that casual workers across the economy will be able to double dip by claiming both annual leave and casual loadings, typically worth 25% of their pay, which one industry group said could cost employers up to $8 billion if those workers' annual leave had to be paid out. Now, here's the thing. This is a headline that's going to attract attention. All the casual workers will think, oh, fantastic, will I get annual leave? A lot of them will be disappointed. Because what's happened here is it's sadly becoming more and more common, and just shows a few issues in our employment relations. The federal court found on Wednesday that casual workers who worked regular and predictable shifts with a firm advanced commitment to work were not casuals, despite how they were described in employment contracts, and therefore were entitled to paid annual sick and carers leave. Mining Union National Secretary Tony Maher, whose union had intervened in the case, said the decision was fantastic, saying it rebuked employers who called their workers casuals but employed them on full-time hours. Employers must now stop with this nonsense that calling a worker a casual makes them so, said Mr. Meehan said. When a job is full-time, regular and ongoing, it is permanent and deserves the security and entitlement that comes with permanent work. Now, here's the thing. The entitlements, there shouldn't be, to a business, there shouldn't be a difference in hiring a casual worker to a normal worker, to a full-time worker. Really, according to the fairness test. You should have to, rather than holding money aside for holiday pay and all these other loadings and things, you're just paying it directly to the employee, and they have the capacity to use that however they wish. They don't get holidays, but they get that money right up front. So there shouldn't be any cost. And this is where it gets really murky with what's happening here. The Australian Industry Group, which represents 60,000 employers, said the decision would discourage employers bringing on casual workers and hurt the economy. And they're right here. They are right here, because there's going to be... That was my first reaction to hearing about this, was people are going to avoid hiring casuals. People in industries that are going to in no way affected by this, in no way related to this circumstance, are going to avoid hiring casuals. That's going to hurt probably those that can least afford it. Today's decision highlights the need for urgent legislative reform to provide certainty to businesses and casual employees and to prevent double-dipping claims by casuals who have been paid additional remuneration in lieu of entitlements of permanent employees, the group's chief executive, Ines Willox, said. An employee engaged as a casual and paid a casual loading should not be allowed to turn around years later and claim the entitlements of a permanent employee like annual leave, he said. 3 federal court judges found Robert Rosato, a black coal mine worker, was employed for 3.5 years until 2018 by the labour hire company WorkPac across different projects as a permanent worker despite being labelled a casual in his contract. So here's the issue. We're not talking about a barista working at a coffee shop. We're talking about a worker working through a labour hire company and then contracted out through the labour hire company to these other businesses. So for all intensive purposes, for 3.5 years with the labour hire company, does that make him full-time or part-time? Was he paid equal to the full-time workers? And, WorkPac, that's just a small business, isn't it? Well, no, it's not. It's not. Here, let's look at some fast facts about them. So they specialize, blue and white collar specialization. So in mining, we'll zoom in here, mining, construction, engineering, health and social care, manufacturing, oil and gas, transport and logistics, training. They were established in Perth in 1997. They've got 40 locations around Australia. Their revenue is $1.45 billion. They only have 450 full-time workers. And they've got over 10,000 field team members employed on client sites throughout Australia. So 10,000 casuals, perhaps, field team members, and over 1.1 million registered candidates. So people are lining up for this work. They're lining up for this work. So it's the largest recruitment company in Australia. And there's safety hours. That's a big important thing for the mines. They're socially responsible. They're socially responsible, of course. You've got to virtue signal, guys. That's why I never trust any of the virtue signaling of these big businesses at all. It's just all for political purposes. Job trail. They're lifting Indigenous participation. Fantastic. That's good. Get more opportunities for people to work, particularly, in the remote parts of our nation. So they're a big business. They're a big business. So here's the thing. What do you think? What do you think? The question I'd put to you is the loading that he received, that Robert got, was it equivalent to the entitlements or, the money and value that the employer held away from workers on full time? Mr. Rosato worked on Glencore mines across 6 contracts and was paid what WorkPac described as a 25% casual loading built into his wage. But the court found he still had entitlement to leave that could not be offset through the wage bump because it did not have a close correlation to the leave entitlements. Under at least one of his contracts, Mr. Rosato worked 7 days on, 7 days off, with 12-hour shifts set in advance, with Justice Mordecai Broomberg found pointed to him having worked that is regular, certain, continuing, constant, and predictable, and not casual. So, what do you think, guys? That does sound like it's not casual. That does sound that he's not casual. The court's decision affirms a 2018 case on the same topic, also against WorkPac. The company did not appeal, but instead started a separate case against Mr. Rosato. This is a $1.45 billion company, guys. You don't want to know how much they're charging to hire out these contractors. You know. The decision is a big win for the class action firm Adaro Law, which has brought 7 cases against major labour hire companies in the sector, seeking to recover between $400 and $450 million. Rory Mackham, the firm's managing principal, said those lawsuits had been in a holding pattern waiting on this case, but he hoped they would be now would be resolved in favour of the class action claimants. We're ecstatic for the 30 to 40,000 group members that will benefit from this findings, Mr. Markham said. The mining division of the CFMEU, of which Mr. Maher is secretary, has also launched a class action over the issue. Attorney General and Minister for Industrial Relations, Christian Porter, said the decision had immediate practical implications for the bottom line of many Australian businesses. Given the potential for this decision to further weaken the economy at a time when so many Australians have lost their jobs, it may also be necessary to consider legislative options, he said in a statement. That doesn't sound fair, does it? I mean, you'd have to argue there definitely is a disparity in power between the 10,000 workers here and WorkPac, and the fact that there's 1.1 million people lined up behind you to take the job after you. If there's any double dipping going on here, it is best performed by the employers. They're taking advantage of the insecurity of casual work while still getting permanent hours out of their workers, Mr. Burke, he said. And while, I don't like the cartel situation that many of the unions find themselves in or push for, and the fact that there's no competition, they've got cartel monopolies over workers. But he makes a very valid point. A very valid point. This isn't how the ABC is portraying it, just in their images here. This is a labour hire company with someone on several contracts. So he's pretty much full-time for that labour hire company for 3 years. Or he's permanently engaged with the labour hire company. Does he have the capacity to work through different labour hire companies? How's it casual? If the leave loading was at 50%, then maybe, would that be fair? It's a mess, guys. It's definitely a mess. And the fact that the government is looking at putting, legislative options in doesn't look good. And what do you think the political connections are about WorkPac? Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Are you a casual worker hoping that you would get your, holiday leave? Or do you feel sorry for Robert, the situation that he's been in working on these mines? 7 days on, 7 days off is a bit different for doing some casual hours at Woolies here and there, or where your roster changes, where you should be able to have a bit of flexibility as well. I'm seeing this more and more with these labour hire companies, everyone, as an intermediary. Is it businesses looking to save money? Is it because our employment laws are just all over the place? Here's the one thing that I'm most worried about all of this, is that you're going to have a big portion of our economy, a lot of small businesses, a lot of people that just take a step back, just read the headline, and they're going to hold off on hiring casuals. As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you'd like to support us, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or on Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, guys. I'll see you next time.